What to do, Crispy Crew? Yeah, so I'm making this video because I have just finished Persona 3 Reload, and I've already beat P4 and P5 as well. So I'm making this video to basically do a retrospective of the 3 games that I just finished, rank them, tell you my likes and dislikes essentially. So let's get right into the video. If you don't like this type of content, I don't know why you're on this video, but no, if you do like this type of content, be sure to like the video and subscribe. But yeah, that being said, let's keep it pushing. So, I don't exactly have a solid ranking just yet. But I can say that I do like P4 the most, if that makes sense. Nah, never mind. I think I might have a solid ranking. This video is a little off the dome, but I'm not gonna lie to you. But P3 Reload, while it's still fresh in my brain, I guess I'll start with that on the things that I like and that I don't like about the game. Persona 3 Reload is just a really, I'm trying to find the right word here. It is a really very slow. I mean, I want to say like the first 20 hours of the game, it feels like it's very riveting to me. Like it feels like that takes a long time for the story to pick up. Um, and if I'm being honest, at least in terms of a gameplay standpoint, it doesn't have the same luxury that P5 has, where it's like, okay, it takes a long time for it to start back up, but at least the gameplay is a little bit more dynamic and it shows you different ways of how to traverse the game. Um, Persona 3 Reload is definitely gameplay wise, definitely I would say the weakest out of the series. And I know that's because, and that's saying a lot because P4 is definitely have some of the same struggles, but I think it kind of makes up for it when it comes to story, and I think it kind of makes up for it when it comes to story and general confidant, what are the confidant or the social links or whatever you want to call them. I'm calling them confidants. Because at least when it comes to Persona 3 Reload, the confidants are a little lackluster. They feel a little bit. The old president, I think his name was like Otagari or something like that. Basically, oh, for lack of better terms, I'm going to be spoiling a lot for all 3 games. If you haven't finished them, I don't really suggest watching this video. But if you don't care, then you don't care. But but no, yeah, Otagari, he's basically like a little school president or whatnot, and he basically goes through the entire time of the confidant of all 10 stages of basically telling you about the situation of someone smoking in their school bathroom or something, and someone found a cigarette butt, and it's a whole investigation. And it's just the way of how hard he's taking his job of the school president that generally is like, I'm not gonna sit here and try to sit here and like make a critique about it being unrealistic, like from a character standpoint, from a character writing standpoint. I'm not going to do that, but I am going to say that I feel like that it's exaggerated, you know. Like I feel like some of these problems are very much exaggerated for the sake of drama purposes. And for some of them, it kind of makes sense why, because otherwise the story would be completely boring unless they did that. But in other scenarios, I don't think so. For even taking example for, I think his name is Suimitsu. He's like some gourmet, some gourmet dude, I guess. Who he just eats a bunch of fucking food and makes reviews on him, I guess. Suimitsu is another example of that, where he's in this fucking cult and he's somehow getting involved with like not gangs or anything, but just really weird people.
Now I'm talking crazy. Niggas 4 months later, you owe me $13,000. Nigga, ain't nobody talking crazy, nigga. My whole life fucked up.
He's also a weird person himself, so it kind of makes sense. But still, that's kind of the general gist here. So it's those things where it's like, okay, we're dealing with these stories, and and it's kind of weird, but we're dealing with these stories, and it's exaggerated for the sake of drama. That's kind of how story writing works. But surely, since these confidants or social links aren't exactly very much fun to deal with, surely when we move to the main story, it would be different. Now I want to say that is true for the latter half of the game. But for the first half, it's very much very boring to me. It starts off way too slow. Much else I can say. It ends with a beautiful bow on things. I like the jazz funk inspired music. I like the general aesthetic of the game. Persona 3 Reload does a really good job of taking the previous formula of what was already done with Persona 3 Portable and Persona 3 Regular, or Fez, I guess, and then turning it into the remake that we have now. Um, Even though I say all these good things about the game, I will say it's probably going to be the lowest ranked on the series for me, because I don't really have a reason. I mean, I don't. It's not even that it was necessarily a bad game because I liked the game. It's just in comparison to Persona 4 and Persona 5, I feel like that it just wasn't coming up with the same things, or it was not coming up with the same feelings or likeness, for lack of better terms, that I would have gotten from those games. And that actually brings me on to the next one, which is Persona 5 base or Royal. I mean, I played base, then I played Royal. It doesn't matter which one I'm talking about. I'm talking about both of them as a whole. Um, that's what started this entire obsession with the series for me in the first place. I'm still yet to get into the Shin Megami Tensei series, but the fact that I think it was actually Ace. He's a person I mentioned a lot on this channel. I'm pretty sure it was Ace who told me about this game. Him and another mutual friend that we don't speak to anymore for reasons that obviously I'm not going to get into on the channel. They both told me about it in like a Discord voice call one time, and me being bored because I just beat the last game that I was finishing, which I don't even remember what I was playing at that time, if I'm honest. Um, I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and try out Persona 5, because at the time it was only $20 in the PlayStation Store, and I was working a bum grocery store job where I was only getting paid I was getting paid $10 an hour, and I was able to get it eventually. So I was like, you know what? Let me try to. Hopefully, this is a bang for my buck, and I would say it was definitely a bang for my buck. I played that shit like 6 times. Story wise, it does have a slow start. If I'm being honest, each of these games have a slow start, but I feel like with Persona 3, it just lasted longer. Gameplay wise is what was getting me. Um, I would say when it comes to like a pure gameplay standpoint, Persona 5 is easily the best out of all three of these games that I played. Now, obviously, I haven't played Persona 1 or 2, because those are very inaccessible at the moment. I know that you can probably play one of them like on a web game or something of that nature. I'm gonna get back to that when I play those, hopefully. But at the time being, for the threes that I've played, Persona 5 has the best gameplay aspect because it doesn't feel like a run and slash RPG or your traditional turn based. Like they have elements that apparently were taken from Shin Megami Tensei, apparently, but they have elements that make the gameplay more exciting. The capturing the monsters, the capturing the monsters to use them as your own. That kind of reminds me of like Pokemon and things of that nature, which I liked growing up a lot. So it kind of helped me with that. But yeah, the what you call it, the grabbing the monsters with the negotiations that made it more fun because you just have to think about your decisions. Um, the dialogue options for the early game were just funny, and if I'm honest, the social links and the confidants that you get from the game from the jump are already fun in my personal opinion. So that makes that 10 times better. And I think all the confidants in the game are fun and the stories are interesting in their own right. Um, for even going down from the doctor to fucking Sojiro to get, because I forgot, oh, Takemi, that was her name. The doctor's name Takemi. But from Takemi to Sojiro and having how he's dealing with being a father but not a father at the same. Yes, with being a father, and I don't know why I said not a father at the same time, but with dealing with being a father and how his role with the main character of him being basically like this uncle but slash father figure for the main character. How that goes into things. Fucking Ryuji's storyline, like, and Yusuke, and basically how hearing how all these Phantom Thieves and their struggles, they still somehow tie it into the main story. But the fact just hearing all these stories and just the confidants intertwining with all that, it makes it feel a lot more connected. And I feel like that this and the storytelling they do for all of them are definitely much better. And I think Persona 5 is the only one that doesn't suffer from an extent, that doesn't suffer from this really weird thing of like the confidants being like weird towards like the other gender. And it's kind of, I don't know why, but I'm gonna get back to that in Persona 4 too. Because that's, if I'm being honest, that's kind of like my only critique of the game. But I feel like this also kind of tied into the central message of that game too. But we'll get back to that. That's another thing I wanted to get into. The central message. If I'm being honest, the central message for Persona 3, I get, but I don't know how to articulate that yet, so I'm kind of leaving that out. But honestly, the central message doesn't affect my rating of the game or the ranking of this list anyway, so I'm kind of leaving it out anyway. But for Persona 5, I know it's not the central message of the game, but the choosing your own fate and the choosing or taking your time with your life and basically taking off your own mask and basically just being yourself is so important to me. And I feel like that's a lesson that a lot of people need to learn, because if we're being completely honest, we're living in an age of people being unauthentic. They're not being true to themselves. They're not being true to others, and it's creating a lot of problems that we can see in a lot of aspects of our life, politics or not, day to day social interactions, the whole nine. But that central lesson, or I wouldn't say central lesson, but one of the lessons that was one of my takeaways that were good, I will say, is something that also ties into the central lesson of the game that I like the most out of the entire series, which is Persona. Now, Persona 4 was mostly my favorite game because of the main story. The social links are wishy washy. Some of them were good, some of them were, what are we doing? Like Nanako and I forgot his uncle's name, but both of them are have really good storylines that I really like. But then, like, even some of the folks that are part of the actual investigation team, some of them have some pretty good storylines, like Chie and Yukiko. Um, Yosuke is a kind of a weird case because I do like his character, do not get me wrong, but I do not like how he talks about like the opposite gender. It is really borderline sexual harassment. I don't even like Teddy. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I tried to like his character, but then like he keeps proving me why I should not like his character. Kanji is the goat. Like, I'm gonna just tell you right now, Kanji is the goat. Like, out of all the electric users throughout the entire series, like, I gotta rank them Kanji, Sonata, then Ryu. That's actually hard. That's actually hard because Ryuji, he's such a reliable character, and so is Kanji. Sonata's 50-50, if I'm being honest. But man, I don't know. I just like all three of those characters. Those guys are tough to me. But no, yeah, I genuinely think that that Kanji is one of the best written characters, and same thing with Naoto. But the problem, or yes and no, and that's kind of one of the other things I wanted to say about Persona 4, is that they don't exactly do the best when it comes to LGBT representation. Like, do you know that they tried it, but then they kind of rolled back. Like, it's like, oh, Naoto, oh, this character is struggling with being with their identity and gender. They present as a boy when really they're a girl. And honestly, I think they were just really scared to just make that character full blown transgender boy, or trans mask. I think that's the term that folks use. And I feel like there's a word for this, where they're like, where people are like, oh, or this is not just even for just transgender folks. It's for like just anybody in the LGBT who's closeted or things of that nature. And they'll be like, oh, I'm this or that. But then like go back and yeah, like the retract. There's a word for that, and there's a friend I had who literally told me there's a word for that, and I really do not like the fact that I'm forgetting it. But generally, Naoto is a big example of basically like the writers being scared to just outright say something, so they try to imply it. But even then, if you rank up Naoto's social link, it doesn't matter because at the end of it, they just try to go full blown femme as if it's like some type of awakening, but really it's just for the weird self insert that the writers are putting into the game. That's my only critique. That's my biggest critique of the game, at least, because none of these games are perfect at all. they have a lot of flaws, like everything else. Nobody's Jesus. But that's generally that's just my gripes with it. But yeah, I don't know. I think that Persona 4 still does good in the other aspects of the series. I feel like the gameplay is still fun, even though the dungeons can get slightly repetitive. That's how it can feel, but at the end of the day, that's just one aspect. Like, don't get me wrong, Persona 5 has the best palace or the dungeons, which are palaces in that game. Um, and the main story is kind of what's not making it top one to me, because I think Persona 4 just has it beat, and I think it's I don't think it's like relatively close. Like, if I'm being honest, when it comes to the main story, I think Persona 5 might be the weakest, but it makes up in other aspects of the game. I personally like put it in the two spot, plus personal enjoyment, if I'm honest. Like, and it came to personal enjoyment. I think I've had the most fun on Persona 5. Like, if I was ranking these purely off for personal enjoyment, it'd go 5, 4, 3. And even if I wanted to rank it on music, oh my goodness, that's a whole nother discussion. That's a whole nother video. But I don't know. It feels like I was kind of just rambling here. But in general, I do think that Persona 4 is probably the best. My opinion is probably subject to change, because when I finish Final Fantasy VII Remake, who knows, I might end up going back and actually replaying all three games. Maybe on stream. I don't know. They're long games. I don't know if I'm doing that. But basically replaying these games and see if my opinion changed, because I played Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal total like 4 or 5 times already. I've only played Persona 4 and Persona 3 once, and I only played Persona 3 Reload. People are saying that's not even the full experience. So I don't know. There's probably these opinions are probably subject to change. I'm just waiting for Persona 6 though. That's all that is. But as per usual, if you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. And yeah, and share it with others. But also comment down below which Persona game is your favorite. I don't know. That's about it.